Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Sharon.
And I'm Camille Barron, a financial coordinator, also in Sharon. And today, Roberta, we're going to be talking about something that really does affect people's budgets. And we're going to find out how people plan and organize functions, particularly weddings, and what goes into it. There's a lot that goes into planning and pulling it off.
Yes, and basically there is no program, TV or otherwise, that goes into this. So along with our Credit for Life Fair, which is teaching financial literacy to students, but this is good for not only students but for anybody. And we are so thrilled, and we thank you so much for coming here today and being a guest, Ron Porzio, and welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start by tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in the event industry for over 25 years now. I've worked in the out catering arena as well as for boutique venues, hotels. So I pretty much have a very well-rounded event background.
What's a boutique venue?
A boutique venue would be a venue that's smaller, that specializes just on functions, not something that's part of a major chain, for instance.
Well, right now. For our viewers, I'm very proud that you work for our family, the Saphire Estate. Other than that, we don't give any blibs or anything.
Yep, I'm very proud to be Director of Operations for Saphire Event Group. I've been with the company now for 5 years, running 2 boutique venues, as a matter of fact. Saphire Estate in Sharon and the Villa in East Bridgewater, which encompass a total of 4 ballrooms. So.
That's pretty big. So you would call those boutique?
Absolutely.
And what makes it so?
It's a small individual company that specializes for many places that you can go into, all kinds of different places. I'm not going to name anyone in particular, but you're going into a place where a wedding is a sideline of their business, where their primary function is something else. In the boutique venue arena, we specifically do events. That is our specific goal. And at Saphire Event Group, we do mostly weddings, but all kinds of functions. We do fundraisers, we do mitzvahs, anniversaries, birthdays, but really the majority of our business is weddings.
Mm-hmm. Now, say you have a young couple, because we want to focus on financial literacy. Who pays? Like, what is the age group now for weddings?
Well, we see, times have changed a little, and we see people all across the board getting married. There are certainly a fair amount of couples that are older, over 30. But there are certainly plenty still of, people in your demographic in the 20s coming in, lots and lots of them. I would say that that's probably the majority of our business is the age group of somewhere between, mid-20s to mid-30s is probably the most, although we certainly do a fair amount outside of those age groups as well.
So what are the major considerations? We're trying to keep it kind of in the realm of financial, obviously, but if someone is watching this show and they're planning a wedding, or they haven't begun yet, but they're considering they're going to get maybe after the first of the year, whatever year it is, what are some of the major considerations, and then how do people come up with a budget for a wedding?
Well, there's lots of ways to come up with a budget. There are some great wedding publications that you can actually go online. But for instance, what we do and many of our competitors do is we can actually work with you to help you establish a budget if you have absolutely no idea. There are other publications, and lots of them, where you could just Google and they will give you a wedding budget calculator to give you an idea of where you're at, depending on what you want too. So that's a good way to start budget-wise, to see what's realistic for you. And then you can kind of build from there. The great thing these days is that there's not really a set program. Things are much less formal than they were even 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah, right?
We see people putting much more of their own stamp on their weddings. And being smart, money-wise, there's lots of ways to have, the dream wedding that you want without breaking the bank for you. If people are flexible, for instance, if you consider, not going specifically with a Saturday night, which of course is the more costly of your options. So we see people getting smart with that, you know, and there's options for Saturday afternoon weddings are less costly. For example, do the afternoon, people have an after party afterwards. So you get the same exact experience, and then you have a less formal event in the evening for your close friends and family. There's also, we see an increased number of Thursday night weddings now. You know, as we like to say, if you had tickets to go to see the Red Sox or a concert on a Thursday night, you'd go.
Right.
So what would stop people from coming out to see, you know, a loved one get married on that night? It's also, you know, it doesn't interfere if you're looking at some of the peak months of the summer and spring when people are so busy. It doesn't interfere with those activities that people like to do on their weekends in the summertime.
Yeah, then they can stretch the weekend.
Exactly.
You know, Arizona, years ago, 20 years ago, they did a lot of Thursday night weddings. That was like a Friday night.
Right.
So, yeah,
Really?
lots of Thursday nights. And the funny thing is, I remember saying to my son, Jonathan, I said, they do Thursday night weddings. It's crazy. Because in the end, people remember the place. They don't remember the night. And then it's a way to
Absolutely
stretch the
correct.
weekend. Do you have more and more people live out of state than used to?
Yeah, we see a lot of people get married here that don't live here anymore, you know, because parents are here, families are here. We see more and more of that, people that were from here but are no longer here but get married here. And it's interesting, too. I mean, you know, the way things are now, I mean, the world's kind of smaller. So we see a fair amount of people that really have no connection to the South Shore getting married out here. So again, it's finding that dream spot that you want to be at is really the first step in the process, and then trying to make the numbers work for you. And you know, most places will work with you.
They call that a site wedding, don't they?
Yeah, a
what was
destination
it?
wedding.
Oh, destination wedding. There.
Yeah,
So what are they? What would you suggest? Say you have somebody who says, "Oh, our parents aren't paying for it anymore. We have college loans. We have this." How do you talk to them? So, because you don't want to lose the date, and yet, how do you work with people like that?
Again, I mean, I give them their options right up front. You know, some people come in, and most people do some kind of due diligence before they come in. You know, kind of check out online, different places, find what they're interested in, and then try to get a feel for what the average pricing might be. But a lot of people don't too, and they come in, and you know, we're very good at working with each individual to find out what their budget is, what's realistic for them, and how we can fit them into a date if they really want to be with us. So by going through, you know, all the options for dates, off-season weddings is another way to go, you know. I love the place. Well, maybe instead of getting married in September, you get married the first week in November, where, I mean, again, the way the seasons have changed so much, it's really not, you're still looking at an experience where you're getting your outdoor pictures. I mean, it's highly unlikely in the first week of November that you're not going to have access to outdoor spaces. So there's those kind of options. Some people book further out to make smaller payments over a longer period of time. There's also the flip side of that, where you can go in, and if you are getting engaged and you're interested in putting it together in 5 or 6 months, you can get incentives that way as well, because, you know, we're anxious to fill dates that are open. So the client benefits from that.
Well, other places the same. This is
Absolutely.
Standard. So
Yeah, it makes
to any
sense.
place.
And, you know, people panic a little thinking about, oh, how can I ever do that in 5 or 6 months? But basically, you know, any reputable wedding planning facility or event planning facility is going to give you all kinds of resources, such as a wedding producer, to help you through those kinds of obstacles and get you there. There's also, you know, we see more and more do-it-yourself kind of brides, like rather than going with florals. Not that florals aren't wonderful, we love our florist friends, but building their own kinds of centerpieces and taking that, you know, which gives you a certain level of control. You can often save money, and it kind of puts your own personal stamp on it at the same time. Keeps you very involved. We see a lot of that as well, where people are doing their own
Do it
centerpieces.
yourself.
invitations, place cards, all those places that you can cut costs. You know, I mean, most people have a printer at home, and there are actually programs out there that will walk you through making a beautiful invitation that nobody would know you made it yourself.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, because regular places that sell invitations, they can be up to $2,000-$3,000.
very costly, and then you're mailing it. I saw one recently that
Oh yeah, the mail.
came, and it was in a giant box, and it had a rhinestone pin on it and ribbons. It was quite over the top. But the postage was $3.84 on
Oh
it.
my.
Yeah, so, you know, never mind what this thing costs. And, you know, a lot of times you don't really need that.
Right.
Because, you know, your mom and your grandmother are going to save it, and most people are going to program the date into their phone and throw the invitation in the
You know, I
barrel.
think there was one wedding not too long ago that we were invited to, and they had an internet site where you could go on and visit the wedding site, so to speak, and you can RSVP and find out information. You can find out where the bride's registered.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
There's lots
Do
of that.
people feel? I remember when that first started up, people felt, well, they'll think it's a cheap wedding, so they won't give me much.
Right.
Do you ever? How's the train of thought on
I
that?
think it's a lot different now. People don't feel as strung up into certain protocol as they used to, which is fun. It's refreshing. We see some really unique things now. We had a couple at Sapphire State last year that wanted their event to feel like a circus, so they rented some carnival games and put them in the courtyard, and people really had a good time, and it was different. You know, and some guests will always remember. You know, and they had like
They played the
beanbag
game.
toss and whatnot, and it was interesting.
Was that a wedding or a bar mitzvah?
That was an actual wedding.
'Cause they do that stuff. I think they make. Do you have stuff where, like for the industry too, where you make more on a bar mitzvah than on a wedding?
I mean, it can be, some of them get up there. They can be very comparable, yeah. So,
How does that teach a child financial responsibility when the parents go more than all out?
I think, I mean, obviously there's reasons that people do that, and I don't know, maybe, I think that the kids are probably not as in tune with what the stuff actually costs at that point, but it does set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, the parents are probably doing it for themselves. That's there. Never mind what you want. This is what I want.
Although we
And
see some
so-and-so down the
weddings,
street did it this way, so
Yeah.
I want to do more. I want to do it
Yeah,
better.
I want the same thing they did. I
although
wanna
you see
invite
some
80
weddings
people.
like that too. I
Really?
mean, where it's like, you know, I joke, I'm Italian, so I'll joke with some of my Italian friends, you know, you'll have your own wedding when your daughter gets married. 'Cause that
Oh, you'll
one's
have
about
your
your
own wedding.
parents, you
Well, I
know.
got a whole slew of Italian jokes. I didn't realize you were Italian.
Hey, you got
No,
two of
just
us here.
kidding. Oh yeah, I forgot you're Italian too. Oh, paisans.
Right.
Yeah, it's all good.
Now, let's say we have someone, a bride sitting out there, and she's planning the wedding, and the parents are not going to pay for it. Maybe they just don't have the means. So the bride and the groom are going to be pretty much footing the bill themselves, or maybe the parents are going to contribute something, but not a whole lot. What are some of the items that are part of the budget? Obviously, the rental of the facility is one.
Correct.
Right?
The biggest ones are your food, your beverage, and your venue.
Okay.
Again, you know, some people get caught up in thoughts of how things, you know, should be. Like you have to have open bar, for example. Or,
Hors d'oeuvres.
right, and you don't anymore. You know,
They
nobody.
don't do the hors d'oeuvres?
Oh, hors d'oeuvres are included.
Oh, yeah. I had a girl once who said, "Why do I have to feed them? They'll eat before they get here." I go, "No, they don't eat before they get here." "Oh yeah, they'll eat before they get there." Do you ever have
Not
people
really.
like that anymore?
No, not really. Luckily,
So,
you have to also expect that you're going to spend some money. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
so but again, keep your options open, and your big ones, your food, beverage, venue, even dresses and stuff have come way down.
Oh,
you
is that
know?
right?
Well, you know, like when you see a company pull the plug on, you know, Priscilla and keep David's Bridal alive, that's all the same company. That just kind of speaks to the times.
Oh, is that
because,
right?
you know, there's less brides interested in spending those kind of money on dresses.
Oh,
People,
really?
yeah, it's just been a kind of a shift in the way people view things.
Less formal.
Yeah, and what's important
Less
to
elaborate.
you? You know, honestly, do you need to spend $5,000 on a dress that you'll wear for 7 or 8 hours?
Right. exactly.
You know, it's great if you can, but if you can't, that's
I
it's another
borrow-
great
I
place.
borrowed mine from the neighbor.
Good for you.
Smart.
What did you do with yours?
I bought it.
Oh, that's nice. Where is it?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't fit into it anyway. Even if I still had it, I couldn't fit.
Well, there's his point.
Thank you.
Right, exactly.
So,
And so you got the beverage, the food, and the venue.
your ceremony spot, your entertainment, your photography, and
But
you know,
do a lot of
flowers.
people do videography now?
I
as
see
opposed to
less and less videography,
Oh,
and I think
really?
that's just because everybody's got a video camera in their hand these days. And I think a lot of people think that it's costly, and they're like, I'll probably never watch it. So that's one place where people cut
Really?
costs.
Okay.
Again, though, it should really be what's important to you specifically, the person. We see brides, you know, we kind of say, what is important to you? Ask that question first. For instance, if you just want really basic pictures, then you don't want to hire a state-of-the-art photographer. A baseline photographer can give you basic good pictures. You know, do you want your photos to be art, or do you want them to just be pictures? You know, so there's differences there. Ceremony spots can be expensive. Churches, temples, items like that. But again, we see most of our brides choose to get married right on
They have the
site.
ceremony right on. Well, it's a beautiful site. I can
It
see why they
is.
would do that.
It
Well,
is.
still, then they don't have to travel.
Exactly, and it takes that out of the equation, the traveling between places. But again, you know, keep your options open. Be smart. You know, look at the Thursday night, the Friday night, the Saturday afternoon, the Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
Monday of holiday weekends
Oh,
is
that's
another
great.
great option.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
everyone's off, and it's a Monday, so you know, it's kind of, again, people are winding their weekend down. That's not a bad option for you.
Right. Yeah, I never would have thought of it that way, but it's true.
Yeah, well, we used to say that Sunday became a Saturday. You get extra
It does, but the
options.
Monday's still a Monday,
Yeah.
so you get some
Yeah.
flexibility
You-
there.
You tell them it's, well, like you tell them it's a Sunday now.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And are you seeing more people because of the economy, Ron, where I was sort of joking, but where the parents may not be paying it like the traditional model is that the father or the bride pays for the
Oh,
wedding?
yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I
seeing
would
more
say
deviation from
lots
that?
more of them. Yeah, there's a true mix of couples making it happen for themselves, or with a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
people throwing in what they can. Everybody does what they can. I will say that I think that it's a good sign of the economy. I think that things people seem to be putting some of the frills back in that they were kind of doing without the last couple of years. More upgraded linens
That's
and
good.
items like that.
How
It's great.
about, how about high school graduations and college graduations? I mean, we're gearing towards teaching financial responsibility for the high schoolers going into college and everything. Are they still doing a lot of parties like that?
I don't.
College and
We
high
don't
school?
see as many of them on our end of it. I know some of my friends in off-premise catering still see a lot of graduation parties, but much more informal. We do not do a lot of that kind of business. We don't even get lots of inquiries for that. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think people are doing a more informal, have everyone in your backyard barbecue kind of approach for those things.
What other kinds of events besides the traditional weddings and bar mitzvahs, and are there other things that are pretty commonly?
Do you have any divorce parties?
We don't.
No?
We did a wedding this weekend for somebody that had decided not to get married, so they donated the wedding to a charity and threw a charity event instead, which is kind of a novel.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah. So we still
nice
see
people.
we see a fair amount of prom inquiries still, and again, mostly weddings, mitzvahs, a handful of anniversary parties. There are still a handful, not a fair amount of christenings, people where they do, you know, high-end christenings. We just did a very large one in December over at Saphire. But again, you know, people are watching their money with those kinds of items. So the wedding is something where everybody still wants to
Right.
move
And of course,
ahead.
there's holiday parties. That's always the tradition.
Some holiday parties still.
Do you ever have people who just max out one credit card after another, and you can see that they're going to get in trouble in the long run?
Well, we try to help people in that regard by not allowing you to charge the whole thing. We just think it's probably not not fiscally responsible for some people. So the way our payment plans are set up, we really don't allow people to just charge the whole event. That's pretty common everywhere I've worked in the industry. So.
Oh, speaking of not having it, I don't know how many people of the clients that you've had do this, but sometimes people will get insurance if an event is canceled because of weather or some other reason that's out of their
she's in the
control.
insurance. Yeah, I don't know. Do they ever do that?
Yeah, there is still wedding
Really?
insurance out there, and we
didn't
do
know they
suggest
had
people
that.
look into it. We don't sell it ourselves.
Oh,
but-
of course not. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing it in the winter, for instance, and there's a snowstorm,
Yeah.
and people are traveling, maybe they couldn't make it to the wedding.
Well, there's a lot of you got to be kidding things when weddings and snowstorms. I bet they still go on with them.
Yeah, most of them do. I mean, it's rare for something to get actually blizzarded
Oh, is that right?
out. Yeah.
I was going to ask, they used to, I don't know if they still do it, like say, you know, God forbid your father or your mother dies. There used to be, you still have the wedding, you don't cancel it. What do they do now?
I believe there's some insurance for that. Now, I couldn't speak totally authoritatively on that. I'm not sure, but I believe that there are wedding insurances that will cover those kinds of instances because obviously, God forbid, you know, your parent dies, nobody's really going to be in the mood to
No,
go
but they
off.
used to still go ahead with it. They said that's the way they, you know, that was the custom to go ahead with it. Do they still do that?
Luckily, I don't see that many of
No?
those, so
Oh,
I
that's
really
good.
couldn't say. I've seen ones where a grandparent passes away where they still go ahead.
How about if the bride or groom passes away? Do they still go on
It's
with
kind
it?
of hard to go
Oh,
ahead
that's
then.
hard. You must
God
have. There are
forbid.
probably people who lie too. You know, your grandfather died last week. You hear that one again? You ever hear
I'm
that
sure
one?
there's some of that out there.
Do you
Absolutely.
ever have them where you know they're lying? We call them professional hagglers.
Yeah, you can. There's definitely.
He's run into
We
them.
don't know, but there's some that we suspect are less than truthful, shall
Right.
we say?
Well, we're getting ready to go into You've Got to Be Kidding, but I remember I got a call once. We had a show on service animals, which is very important. There's more, service animals aren't just for blind people, they're for the warriors that come back, and there are dogs trained to comfort, so they more comfort. And I got a call that somebody came in to a wedding, guests at the villa, brought their 2 little dogs and said they were service animals.
Correct.
They let them in, and the dogs ran all around the dance floor and disrupted everything.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So, have you had any others like that's a real You've Got to
No.
Be Kidding. You know,
Yeah,
you know
it
why?
is it's very. Like, why would you want to? You may have guests that have dog allergies and whatnot.
Yeah,
and,
see the dog allergies.
You know, so there's. I haven't seen any more like that, but I do remember that.
You remember
But
that
the-
one?
I do.
But the thing is that we had that Sherry on,
Yeah.
and she said, first of all, there's never 2. Why would they need 2? There's 1, and there's also, and just pass it on to you, they're trained to not leave their owner's side.
That is correct.
So they wouldn't be, the minute if the dog ran away or did that, you know they're wrong.
So what happened? Did
They let them in. I found
Did
out
the
about
dog
it
stay at the
afterwards.
wedding?
I don't know what happened. Did they end up
They let
staying
them
for the whole
stay,
time?
Yeah, because they were
They were
unsure
afraid.
what to do. It's
Yeah.
it's a fine line. You don't want it, but I mean, clearly it wasn't a service animal.
No,
And
they
you know,
should've-
you're not allowed to ask why they have a
Correct.
service
I
dog.
think
Remember
you can
she
ask,
told us
yeah,
that?
you can ask what
What do they do? What do they
What
do? But you can't say, why do you have
But
the
you
ser-"
can say too, I don't believe you. I mean, 2 little dogs running around,
Right.
it's clearly,
I
isn't
mean,
that
you
terrible?
obviously wouldn't want a blind person being led by a dog that's running all over the place, you know? Clearly.
Maybe they like to dance. Who knows?
I guess that's true.
It's funny, they get on the, I asked them too at the plane. They said they just let them on. You know, you can buy those things. Nobody should do it, but I mean, you can just buy that stuff online.
True.
And
Buy
and
what?
it's not even, buy the jacket that they wear.
Oh,
and the
really?
certificates.
Oh.
Yeah, they sell that online.
Yeah.
It's funny
Yeah.
there. But there's another thing I was going to ask. Gee, that really is interesting. Do you have any other stories like that one? I got
Not
that
that I can think
that
of
real story.
offhand,
You
but-
know, Rick over there that takes care of he just comes right out and tells the people if they want to stay, I don't believe you, you know, and
Oh, is that
turns
right?
out, yeah, it turns out they're wrong. But there's a lot with the functions and everything. Don't you have to worry about like the Board of Health
course. Food
and all
handling.
licenses? Aren't there some new stuff like if a teenager or a high school student wanted to go into it's a good career choice for them
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah, event services is a very strong career choice. There are lots of options within the field. There is everything now from I see people going to college for, running, giant concerts and stuff, that end of it, to the wedding business, to everything that we're in. But it is a very solid career choice. There will always be celebrations. They will always evolve. And it's fun work. There's lots of sides to it too. There is, the planning and producing side. There is the actual running and execution side. There's food service, doing the food service itself. There's all the culinary opportunities.
Yeah, they didn't have that years ago. Years ago, if you were interested, you went to work somewhere and you learned it. You learned it that way. But today, they, like you said, they have courses in event planning. They have courses in producing. They have courses.
Absolutely.
Don't they have like just decorations?
Absolutely.
Courses?
There's all kinds of things for florists. I mean, again, it touches a million areas. You can be a florist, and there's all kinds of classes you can take in that regard. We use internships, for example. So we've actually...
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and we've hired some really great talent by having internships, and it's a good way to see if it is a fit for you, because it's rewarding work, but it's not easy work.
I
Yeah,
bet
they
it
didn't
isn't.
have that years ago. Like we have interns too, and you'd be surprised how much they learn from you without
Absolutely.
realizing it. When you get that letter and say, I did this, or they're going into, like with our case, they go into nonprofits. But for as part of financial responsibility, this Credit for Life is they have to pick a career choice.
Mm-hmm.
And they pick a career choice. If they pick a career choice, public service that they get paid $40,000 a year, they can't afford the nice car they're used to driving
Right.
on their mother's money.
Yeah.
But in the food service event planning, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. Pastry chefs that specialize in wedding cakes. There's that end of it, the design end. There's the rental end of things, where you're a rental consultant for people who want china, special glassware,
Sure.
special linens. There's that whole decor end of it. It is a huge industry. There's the entertainment piece of it for DJs, photographers. Many of the photographers and DJs that I know are specifically weddings as their primary business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so.
Well, it looks like it's about time that we have to wrap up
Great.
for the show. It goes by
It
fast.
does.
But it's really good to have you here, because a lot of our viewers are trying to learn how to be more financially responsible. And for people who are planning a function, it's great to know
no matter
that there
what
are
age
options.
you are,
Absolutely.
no matter what age you are, no matter
Exactly.
what you do, everybody has some event sometime.
And to know that they have some control over how much it will cost them financially, how elaborate or unelaborate it is. It's great to have you, and we're going to ask our viewers if they want any more information to contact us, and we'll be able to forward the information to you.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you
We'd love
so
to.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a delight.
Yeah.
So to our viewers, thank you for watching. We're very pleased that you joined us, and if you have any questions about planning an event, send us an email and visit our website, thelawyourmoneyandyou.com. Financial literacy. We have a program through Sharon High School.
Oh, a
and
Brighten Up campaign.
our Brighten Up campaign.
Brighten
There's lots
Up
going on
financial
about financial
literacy.
literacy that we're
Yeah.
really doing so that we can make people more aware. So if you have ideas or feedback, please let us know. We want to hear from you, because remember, this is your show. The law, your money, and you.